Welcome home to the native, landing on a podcast space destined for greatness. 60 minutes or so hit, not too long for the grave ship. High level combo, politics in a way that you can taste it, then digest it. Politics touches you even if you don't touch it, so get invested. Cross the T's and dot the I's, Gillum back to get 'em, stand on business with Rye. You could have been anywhere, but you chose us. Native Land Podcast, the brand that you can trust.
Yes. Welcome home, everybody. This is Andrew Gillum. I'm here with my beautiful, literally hot co-host. You are?
Tiffany Cross. Well, I know we host. We introduce you, Tiffany Cross.
And who are you?
My name is Angela Rye. I'm live from the set.
That's right.
Technically, we're just off the set.
We're right behind the Will Packer Amphitheater. We don't even have Will Packer with us today.
I've been texting
Will Packer, an awesome
guys,
alumnus of Florida A&M, but also you got a special relationship with Will Tiff.
Packer. That's right. I texted him a picture of the Will Packer Amphitheater.
Yeah, because he didn't have one.
I'm so proud of it.
I am.
He's the answer throw shade all the time.
I'm very proud of him.
Hear myself.
Anyway, welcome home.
Welcome home, everybody. We got a special show, and we're actually going to get right into it because, we started a little bit late. Angela insisted that the stage not have any covering. So
you have an add-on. I'm really sorry
the
to
Florida
everybody.
sun.
Sorry
So
to
for all of our guests who will be coming forward throughout the day, just as you start to feel the sweat drip down your face and through your shirt, you can thank Angela Rye for having selected again no covering for
You can also do what Tiff and I did, and that is put napkins under your boobs. It works very well. So
honestly,
anyway,
all the women know about this.
Okay, we just left from being a PG-13 show.
No,
now we're explicit. So everybody can listen.
It's not explicit.
Either way, y'all, we're about to get ready. Welcome to the highest of 7 hills, the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, also known as
Class of 1978,
you
right
say
here.
FAMU, we know that you are not related to any of us. If you say FAMU, we know that you are a guest. We'll treat you as a visitor.
Were you the king of Orange
I'm an honorary rattler. Give me my credit.
I was not the king of Orange and Green, but who should have been?
Hey!
Got joining us on stage here.
Go put on your headset. I know, but you're blocking the camera. Go put on your headset.
Seniors of politics.
That is a homecoming.
Y'all, our friend, your friend, and our leader here in the state of Florida, from the Florida Senate, is about to be joined by our future leader in the Florida Senate. In fact, both are senators. I think I said the Florida House, Florida Senate. Shevrin Jones, alumnus of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. Welcome.
Yes, sir.
And future senator, former SGA president.
Yeah.
Here, two-time SGA president at Florida A&M University.
You were an SGA president.
I was, but he did it 2 times. It was so nice he had to do it twice.
Yes.
Or he needed that check.
Hear Daryl Parks.
The one
Let's
that
make
comes
sure
from,
we get
from
these
FAM.
mics on.
But importantly, gentlemen, we are so happy to have you. Actually, I'm happy to have you. This is home for me.
Yes.
But it is also by extension home for these ladies.
Yes, indeed.
Angela calls herself an honorary rattler. I consent. I agree. And Tiffany is another HBCU alum from Atlanta.
But happy to be. It's all one big family at the end of the day. But happy to be here. But yeah. CAU proud. Bring it, as they say in the church, bringing greetings.
You know what?
on behalf of who?
On behalf
of Clark Atlanta University, right up the road.
You know,
well, quick question. Did they have any sin go?
Say that again, Daryl.
They said any sin go?
Sin go.
Money.
What do you
Oh, Lord.
Did they send any money?
Oh, okay.
When you bring greetings, he want to know that they send in package.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Ain't come with no package.
Are the mics on? Oh, they are.
But welcome anyway. Senator.
Yes, sir.
I hope that you're up here not only celebrating homecoming, but helping to recruit a new colleague into the state senate.
Listen, I sent him some love yesterday, and we got to sing him a little bit more to get him across the finish line.
Okay,
I think he's going to do all right. Yeah, I sent him some money.
Yes.
Daryl asks.
Well, without question. Well, unfortunately, the fundraising deadline was yesterday, but he did send money in time.
I did.
Yep. So it made the deadline.
Give me my props now. What's up?
So Daryl said, to be clear, as an attorney, I did not violate the rules.
I did not violate the law.
Very good.
We're not soliciting, but we're doing great. Senator Jones and his colleagues have done a great job of helping my campaign. Andrew, Senate Democrats are actually coming together to win a race. Yeah. And I think on Tuesday we're going to take back this Senate seat and flip it.
Yeah. Woo!
Flip this seat back, right? And this is the #1 legislative race in the state, and we all have gotten behind it to win it. So it's been a very collective effort on our part.
I've seen a lot of your commercials. They are like back to back on there. Yes, which is great. But a lot of our viewers are outside of Florida. So if people who don't live in Florida, what is the relevance to your race? Why should they care? Why should they pay attention? Or if they're hearing you, they should be so moved to send a donation for the next deadline. I know, but for the next deadline when he runs for re-election, tell the people why they should care.
Here's the significance of it. So the Republicans came a couple of years ago. They gerrymandered this particular district and designed it so that a Republican would have a better chance of winning. And they created a super district. So it's 13 counties. It covers 20% of the geographic area of the whole state. And then they went and got a former football player, gave him lots of money, and flipped the seat. And you probably recall our governor, when he was campaigning in Iowa, he would brag about that there was a state Senate seat that had been Democratic for 100 years. Wow. They flipped it from Democrat to Republican. And so this particular seat also, though, is one of the seats that gave the Republicans a supermajority. So now we need to flip 2 seats back to take that supermajority away.
That's right.
But that's the importance of the seat. And so we thought it important, really in philosophically, and what it represents to flip the seat back to Democrat.
That's right.
So I was lucky enough, one, decided that I was that one of the people that could make this happen. And 2, the Senate Democrats, Shevrin and his colleagues decided they would invest in it. And so the cool thing about it is that I had 2,800 donors in the primary. And so you've seen a whole bunch of folks from around the country and around the state and around the city come and help me. And then as I sit here today, we probably have over 4,000 donors. So we've raised, collectively, they raised about $3.1 million. I raised about $2.6 million on my side of it. And we're taking the seat back.
Can you, just for the sound folks, if you can keep our mics up so we can hear each other, especially with the music, that'd be great. I want to ask you, Daryl, what was the impetus for you? You've been a civil rights lawyer. You've been on the ethics committee with the bar. You've really dedicated your life to advocacy and service. What made you want to run for public office?
Well, Angela, normally, when you're living a good life like most folks in America, you see what's going on, and as Andrew told you, we're very close. So I was involved in when Andrew ran and been around. Florida's important. Yeah. Florida represents a lot to my family, to everything that I am. And when you see what the people in power are doing, how they're managing it, you have to ask yourself that somebody capable has to start the cycle, the flip. You just can't keep giving up. And so I've had like you say, Ben and I did great civil rights work. I have a great name in this town. I knew, and the Republicans knew, that I was the type of person that could beat their guy. Yeah. And we're beating their guy. And on Tuesday, he's going home, back to the couch.
Yep.
All right.
I know y'all are visiting Angela and Tiffany, but in the ads that his opponent is running, and he's certainly an otherwise decent person, is spending most of his time talking biography.
Right.
And we come together. Now, he's the incumbent. When you're the incumbent in a seat, everybody knows you talk about what you've done, public policy-wise, how you've improved the area in which you have been elected to represent. And I found it interesting, Daryl, that between the two of you, you're the one talking about issues.
Yes, his record.
And that the incumbent
that sound familiar?
Is not talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's what that's what the Republicans constantly run on. If you even look at Corey, Senator Simon, and what he has done since he's been in the Senate. Senator Simon, he sided with the Republicans on all of the Black history, elimination of Black history as far as the AP African American Studies. He ran the bill in the Education Committee, and we even when asked to him in committee, like, "Yo, dude, you are a Black man running a bill like this," and his justification of it was just mind blowing, not just to the Democrats, even to the people on his side, and how he was able to convey a message of reasoning of why he support this type of legislation. I also say of why we need Daryl in the Senate is because we're deadlocked. we're going to have a 3/4. So by the time we get into the legislature, whether we show up or not, they can start session. Or whether we go in committee or not, we can't break nothing. But with this one, I know we can, because I believe there is an absolute pushback that's going to happen, because I think they are already setting up what they want to do for next session. They want to make it harder for ballot initiatives next year.
Of course.
I know for a fact they're going to go after local governments again. And we need to have the numbers to be able to block a lot of the stuff that's absolutely happening. I think they're going to continue to eke at our public education system, and this is not something that I am talking hypothetical. I'm talking something that I know what's happening, absolutely brewing in the background.
So can you explain to me why it is that Florida and the Florida legislature is gifting the country so many black Republican elected officials? We got Byron Donaldson.
Donalds.
Oh,
No,
Donalds.
don't call him Donaldson.
I didn't know his
disrespect on his name.
I didn't know him.
He ain't even finished here.
Donaldson.
Bye-bye, Donaldson.
Donalds. We got Simon, who we hopefully will be retiring soon. But what about the Florida legislature keeps producing these folks?
You should call Byron Donaldson Toby.
I didn't say
You know what?
I have pledged to stop making slave analogies. I have pledged.
And they have a new one, too, called Grace Glass. She's running against Gallup right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, Grace Glass is her name. She's from Brevard County. She came here to work for DeSantis. For real. And so I said, I was at out politicking with these people. And beautiful young lady. And I was trying to understand her psyche.
Yeah.
And so at lunch, I hope I wasn't disrespectful. I said, well, you're a real Republican?
I want to take a quick moment just to our viewers, because if you're tuning in and you don't live in Florida, you might be, maybe not as focused on Florida issues.
Yep.
So I think it's important for our viewers out there to know who are all across the country that a lot of these crappy policies bubble up from the state legislature.
Yep.
Right now, a majority of state legislatures are run by Republicans. So before you all ever heard about book bans, before you ever heard about the attacks on critical race theory, that originated in Florida. It originated at a lot of school board meetings. It originated, and then that bubbled up to state legislatures. So that's why we're talking to local elected officials. So I just want to make it make sense for the folks out there as much as you guys can.
But it all starts from the 2025 national policy. So what you really see is kind of like that ALEC model that we saw years ago.
Yes, that's the American Legislative Exchange Council.
That's right.
Yeah.
With the Republicans, that's some conference, 2025 in this sense, right? Mm-hmm. They pull these policies from that meeting, and they start running it in bills.
Plug and play.
Yes.
Yeah, literally copy and paste. Well, we are so grateful that you all have joined us today.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're thrilled to have you, and we know that we're going to see you around right off the set. We are, Andrew, because I'm an honorary rattler, so I know that.
Before we let them go, can they quickly give us their estimation of what will happen for Harris Walls in Florida?
I think that Vice President Harris will do well in Florida, and I think +1.
Really?
Wow.
So you think Florida's going to go blue?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why. Because people are not paying attention to the independents. The independents are leaning Democrat.
They're a third.
Yep, and we're learning that in Miami-Dade County. By Miami-Dade County, I know our numbers are looking pretty weird right now, but we have more independents who are leaning Democrat, and we're noticing because we did track polling, and we're noticing that they are leaning towards Kamala Harris. So I think it's going to be a big upset. And the Republicans are running scared. They're running scared on 3. They're running scared on 4. They're running scared on candidates because it's unpredictable. Because it is that left leaning. We just saw some numbers while I was driving here today that showed that, as far as where the independents are lining up in Miami-Dade County, particularly. In one of them, and I say this and I shut up, that even in Miami-Dade County in District 113, the independents have voted over the Republicans almost plus 2.3%.
Wow.
In JJR's old district, which is Democratic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. 1906, what you got to say?
Without question. So in the polling we did as early as last week, we have an 8-point advantage with independents. So independents are that edge. And, for example, you get these news reports saying, well, the Republicans are really showing up. Yeah, they're showing up. But this is a 53% Democratic district that I'm running in. And we have an 8-point advantage, which is outside the era. The
Roger Vera.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, we want to thank again our guests, two awesome rattlers. One sitting senator, Shevrin Jones in the Florida Senate.
Appreciate it.
And in just 5 more days, our next 4 more days.
4 days.
The next senator for the state of Florida, Democrat, Daryl Parks.
Attorney, legendary.
Another rattler.
The rattler.
Another rattler hit it for the
So next up, we have Melanie Campbell, who is the president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. We have our good sister Shavon Arline-Bradley, who's the president and CEO of the National Council of Negro Women. And we have Dr. Stacie Grant, the international president for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
All right.
Clap it up as they join the stage.
While they're making their way to the stage.
Oh look, we get some
we got some t-shirts.
Hey,
I can't take another piece of clothing on me. It's so hot. I'm about to lose some clothing.
Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Y'all sit because y'all covering the camera.
The camera's right behind y'all.
Y'all take your seat. Thank you.
Thank you. So good to see you. Thank you guys for
Make
being
sure we
here.
get those couches together. We don't want everybody.
Oh yeah, the headset. Oh, careful.
Yeah, while they get their mic on,
Yes,
I want y'all to know it's about 130 degrees, but I feel a fan. And it's a lively environment here on FAMU's campus.
Yeah.
I heard Blackstreet earlier. And then at some point, I hope we do the Can We Talk challenge. That all the HBCUs are doing. Y'all know about that?
What is it?
It's like when they start playing Can We Talk, and then the music goes out, and the whole audience
Oh
sings
yeah.
the whole song. Yeah.
That's a great idea, Tiff.
Yeah.
Well, we have some powerhouse sisters,
ladies.
on the stage joining us. One thing that we know, and I think Andrew will attest to this, given the powerful black woman he's married to and the powerful black mama who raised him and his powerful black sister.
And
If we want something,
black co-host.
oh yes,
Powerful black co-host.
Now the other thing I was going to say was what we know is that when black women are involved, we can get the thing done every time. So talk to us about the work you all are doing right now in a very nonpartisan way, because I know you are in your nonpartisan hats. Yes, you got them on. But talk about the importance of the black vote this season, what you all are hearing. You all are in battleground states, traveling the country, making sure that we are getting out to exercise our franchise, because we know democracy is fragile and is hanging in the balance.
Yep. Well, first of all, thank you all for inviting us. I was so excited to hear.
Yes.
That come to my home state. Exactly. I went to Clark, but HBCU love. And as we sit behind our AKA both Delta Sigma Theta 2 and Divine 9. But real quickly, been on this tour. We started a year ago in Florida for 30 days, just going from community to community, listening to folks to let us know what was concerning them. And then we did it again in the spring. But since October 12th, we've been in 7 states with this Power to Ballot tour that is called Freedom and Joy.
Yes.
I love it.
And our tagline is, we won't be erased and we won't go back. Somehow that's become a partisan term, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But what I have seen and what we've seen is that black folks are fired up. We are, right? And also, I was talking to Shavon and telling them, when I hit Pittsburgh, that's when you saw some of the other ugliness that's out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
This is ugliness that's out there now.
We'll be there Monday.
But our people are clear. That African drum beats beating, and we know this is not a normal election. This is about our future.
Yeah.
And young people all over this campus. We've been here since yesterday, but we've been in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania, Maryland, Georgia, Alabama. We're not gonna forget the South, and that's why we're in Florida as well. But it's something. It's been something, and it's also been exciting and invigorating because we're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
We built this country.
As Angela says, for free.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Miss Zeta Phi Beta, I would be remiss if I did not say my brother's a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma, so he would want me to tell you that. But tell us about.
My father was a Sigma.
Oh, well,
that's why we love
you
each other.
surrounded by like that. We love the blue and white. I mean, we are under.
Oh, Lord.
Wow. But, I hear it all the time. But seriously, though, the power in being here, I too want to thank you for this conversation, because everyone's paying attention to the D9. So not only am I here as the international president of Zeta Phi Beta, I'm also proud to be the vice chairwoman of our council of presidents. So I want to shout out the Honorable Chris Ray, JD, who is our chairman, and all of the presidents of the D9. We work together as a unit. It's not just a hashtag D9 Stronger Together. It's understanding that outside of the Black church, we're the largest institution of our people, over 2.5 million. So as we come together to educate our communities on what's on the ballot, that's the important part of this conversation. No stone can be left unturned.
That's right.
We can't take for granted that everyone is going to go to vote. Right. So we have been intentional on our work. And as our chairman would say, unless you're exhausted on November 6th, you didn't do your Black job.
Yeah.
So our job is to make sure that all of our members are not only mobilizing and educating the electorate, but they too are bringing people to the polls. They're understanding this is not just about the White House. It's the down ballot.
That's
right. It's to understand that
That's
every single election counts. It's working and collaborating with organizations like you see here today. And being for the sororities, we're a part of NCNW, an organization of organization leaders. So we're bringing everybody to the table because our lives are on the ballot.
Yeah.
So the power in knowing that as a D9 is more than a sorority party, as some person tried to proclaim.
Well,
but that we have been in the community for over 100 years plus, doing this work every day because our founders charged us to make the world better than how we found it, through scholarship, sisterhood, and brotherhood.
I have a quick question for the Reverend. Shavon, I got to ask you, we had Jamal Harrison Bryant join us on our podcast that is killing it. Like, we're starting to see so many numbers because I think that Black folks really feel torn, and I'm generalizing here, but some of us who grew up in the church feel really torn about some of the social values that we were taught, that were kind of drilled into our minds, and then what is on the ballot this time. I gotta ask you, sis, when you're talking to folks about reproductive justice and the number of lives that hang in the balance because of what's on the ballot via initiatives, and of course with who's at the top of the ticket, how do you thread that needle? You're powerful, you are anointed. Like, let me just be very clear. This woman talks to the Most High. So I want to be clear about that. I just want to know what do you say to the church folks that are like, I need to know how I'm making this point to folks who are like completely like, you know, the Antichrist is at the top of the, you know nonsense.
First of all, I love all y'all. I'm so excited to be here.
We love you.
And I think one of the things I've had to deal with is I call it moral mischief, because it's context, what people have been taught. It's been ingrained in us to other people in the church. And an issue like reproductive justice for me is personal, and Angela knows this. I mean, I struggle intensely with conceiving. I have lost children. And the condition that I had, I actually would have lost care under the current Dobbs decision. Jesus. So the children that I lost, right, I could have been arrested for some of the procedures that I had to actually have. And I've birthed one son, and I tell people all the time in the church, this is not about your conviction. This is about constitutional freedom. You can have your belief. No one's ever tried to change your belief. But what we are saying is, if they can come in and tell you what to do with your body, right. What happens when they come in and say you can't go to this church anymore? What happens when they take your Jesus away from you? What happens when they tell you you can't go to that school, you can't go to this school? And the moral mischief, it is so consuming of us because we feel like we're going to go to hell if we say these things.
That's right.
Exactly.
And it scares people even away from the polls. Yeah. So you'll see Black preachers saying things like, I can't vote for X party. Right? And it plays a game that confuses the mind. And I'm going to tell you something. It is a concerted effort. It is a coordinated plan. And to the evangelical Christians that are out there, let me tell you something. Evangelical just means to evangelize. Yeah. They have usurped the word, and it is wrong.
That's right.
Black people are actually evangelical because we tell good news.
Of course.
We evangelize. But what the political pundits have done is use that word, kidnapped it, misconstrued it, and confused minds to make you think that if I now am evangelical, if I am pro-life, well, if you're pro-life, then that means you're pro-all life. That means you're pro-Black life. You're pro-brown life. You're pro-all life.
For all
stages.
That's right.
And all ages and spaces. Let me close with this around the church and the faith piece. Because Black people are a people of resilience. And we are a people of faith. Whatever your faith is. But we are still the largest number of Americans that attend the church. Right. Now, as that's still decreasing, our population still engages in fellowship. And this is why I call on Black preachers, one, to advance your Black women clergy, the ones that can give life. So we can speak about the lives that we are affecting. But also I tell my brothers and sisters behind the cloth, do not misconstrue the gospel for your own plan.
That's right.
That's right.
Do not do that, because that's not what Jesus does. Jesus is justice. It's an alignment. And if we're talking about this social justice space, voting, this is of God. It is of God for you to go to vote. Why? Because he calls on us to engage in the governor's work. That's what he talks about in the word. So we are really seeing a real challenge in the body of Christ where black and white and Hispanic and Asian are all in this melting pot of confusion. But the black church is being called out in a way that is just so disgusting, but it is so racist.
Yeah.
And that's actually how this institution started.
Shavon, I want to just say really quickly, because there are so many people. I know being weaned on the teachings of Washington, D.C., you all are common knowledge to us, but there are so many young people, unfortunately, who are not familiar with the work of NCNW, the National Council of Negro Women, founded by Dr. Dorothy Height. I was vice president of the millennial section that was forever ago, 24 years ago.
I didn't know that, Tim.
Yeah, I've learned how to organize through National Council of Negro Women. And that was meant to carry the message and for younger people, and it's time for another generation of younger people to carry forward the mission of NCNW. So I wanted to offer our viewers that background, but I also want to point out, I met a woman in the audience who is an advocate for Amendment 4 right here in Florida, which essentially codifies abortion rights here in the state. Something shocking is that they were told they could not tent or table here at FAMU. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to look into the background of it, but I surmise perhaps because it may be an issue with state-funded schools.
Yeah, I mean, it could be all state universities.
Yeah, but under Republican governor
leadership.
Ron DeSantis, who has a vested interest in silencing these voices and making sure that this amendment doesn't pass. And our previous guest talked about how important ballot initiatives are. So this is why we have local elected officials here. This is where the local government meets the federal government, and Republicans at one point in time were all about small government, except when it comes to our bodies, except when it comes to our reproductive rights and our choices, except when it comes to anything that they want to have control over. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlight Amendment 4 right here in Florida. That's right. Please, if you are a resident of Florida, look into it, do the right thing, and I want to thank the woman in the audience who told me about Amendment 4. Thank you for being here with us.
I just we need to keep allies like you all at the national level close to states like Florida.
For sure.
As we laid out previous to your arrival, that these states oftentimes are the play field for much of what ultimately happens at the federal level. They test it with the guinea pigs.
For sure.
Well, Ron DeSantis is the biggest of the perpetrators of making Florida the guinea pig of the new extreme right. You talked about the suspension of these rights on campuses, but he spent over, I think the estimate is over $50 million in public taxpayer dollars against these two amendments.
Well, that's why we came a year ago.
That's right.
We know what this state would have been like had you got
my governor.
My
forever. How about that?
The unfortunate part is the policy is where it's happening, right? Killing to precedence.
That's happening in our home state, which is why we wanted to make sure we stayed a whole month when we started this. Was because so many things. And what we wanted to point out about Florida was, if you want to know what fascism looks like,
it's right here.
Come to the state of Florida.
It's right
and
here.
So what I'm seeing, though, is a resurgence of organizing in this state. And because the numbers have always been there, right? And so he can't run a second time, right? And I was glad to see, and I'm just speaking as a native of Florida, to see Daryl Parks up here. And I ran into him earlier home, and how important that is that we don't turn this state over because the numbers are there. Florida has a young demographic. People still see Florida. You see Mickey Mouse and all that. But when it comes, and then they say retirement. The truth of the matter, you know this, that a lot of young people, the state has changed. So the numbers are there. And I believe that there's going to be a resurgence. And the reason we're in the South, too, is because if 60% of black people live in the South, if we want to see this country change, we have to make sure the South changes. In Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana.
That's it.
What will it take, though? That's such a common understanding, like the racism and the suppression is almost baked in how the media covers the electoral map. What would it take, given that a majority of us either currently live in the South or we originate from the South? And there are small pockets of evidence of a remigration, where people are returning to the South, right? So what does it take to actually change those numbers. And I asked Melanie, because you know this, when we were in Atlanta, Atlanta in the 90s was a different city.
It was.
Today, I look at Atlanta, and this is no shade. I grew up in Atlanta. I love Atlanta. But there are so many transplants who do not appreciate what the magic is of having that black-ass city run by black officials, creating black wealth with black homeowners, black college graduates, taught by black people. And I think when transplants come and they like the city of Oz, everything is gold, and I run a studio in my basement, and I got a hair salon or whatever. But it takes responsibility to hold on to that. So what does it take to change the South?
Vote next year. Vote in these state legislative races.
That's key. The state, let the
gotta take the
it's
state
the gold dome.
Yeah.
Gotta hit it.
I get myself in trouble.
Well,
You have to shift the power dynamic. Power the ballot, right?
Yeah.
Shift the power dynamic in these states, because a state like Mississippi, we saw trying to move up. Now the reality is, when they control the legislature, those who don't believe in inclusion, take over the state legislature, take over the governor's races, and then they take over the census. Then you end up with this like reversal, and you're trying to come back to it. But we have to really find a way to continue next year to keep this going, because that's the only way we're going to. Otherwise, and then
but even beyond voting, Shavon,
that's what I was going to say. Because you can be the blackest state in the union and still not have power in the state legislature.
That's right.
Which makes no sense. So the real question really becomes is, one, who's running? Two, who's mobilizing? And then three, where does real power lie? Because that's the real question we have to start answering. This question about power has been the challenge. The dynamic won't shift until the people see themselves as the power.
That's right.
That's right.
And so that comes from us mobilizing. That comes from the Native Land Podcast is power.
That's right.
Why? Because you get to own the message. You get to own the content, the context. But if we're raising young generations to not see themselves as the power, then they're not going to run. They're not going to see value in that. So there's no way we can say that we always say, I'm a Jersey girl, so I'm by way of Florida, which is great. I mean, from Plant City. And I think about why we say the South has something to say. The South already has said it, but has the South mobilized to get it?
Yeah.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that this black excellence about Atlanta is real. Maynard Jackson was a whole phenomenon in and of itself. We're not even having that conversation about who did we train?
Yeah.
Right.
To prepare the contracts, to prepare the next generation of power seekers.
That's right.
It's about power. It's not just money. It's power, position, money, access.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Power, position, money, access.
Madam President,
Really quick,
you're close to. I know we're closing.
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not yet. Hold on. I was just gonna say, if you all see Lola, wave your mic in the air. We didn't say at the beginning of the show that our shows, our live shows in particular, one, you all know when we send in videos, we get videos from you all every week to the podcast. But when we come to you, we want to make sure that it is an active and engaged conversation, because it is so much more than just voting. It's also utilizing your voice. So we have a mic here. If you have a comment or a question, while we have these incredible queens up here. Andrew, I know you had a question.
Well, Madam President, first of all, impressed with you every time I see you. I was doing the dishes. My wife was at her workstation, and we heard a voice in this interview responding to Donald Trump's whole party as he neglected the work of these fraternities and sororities. And there's this voice coming over speaking powerful truth. And I put the dish. I said, Jay, who is? We both turned around. She is good. She is very
We
good.
say it all the time.
I think so. Thank you for your representation, not only of obviously your illustrious organization, but more broadly for Black folks, including Black Greeks. I did want to ask you, your organization obviously engages with alumni, adults, folks who are fully working, but also you're closest to young people, the folks who you're training to become your future alumni. I'm curious just what read you've been getting as you all have moved around the country as it relates to this election, the potential of Harris as the next president.
Absolutely. So for us as an organization, we're proud that we did establish youth auxiliaries, the first to do that, and all of us have our youth auxiliaries now that we're working with, because what we're allowing them to say and giving them platform, when we vote, we're voting for them.
Yeah.
We're voting for their future. We have our young Mikas and our Arcanists. They're making policy papers. They're talking to their teachers. They're holding their own forums on why it's important for their parents to vote, their relatives to vote, because we are preparing them for what it looks like to advocate for the rights of everybody. And thank you for your kind words. What I tell everyone is when you see me, you see every other black woman in this room
for sure
on this planet. I'm not here by myself, but because so many thousand came before me whose names will never be heard. And we are drinking from wells we did not dig. So we cannot take this for granted that we are sitting here advocating as a D9 stronger together. They see our colors, they see our shields, everyone gets excited, but it's deeper than the surface. It's about the mission that our founders put us on so that we can uplift the community. We can't just get and keep, we get to give. So through our service and through elevating conversations, we are able to get out of this pocket of knowing we're the black state, but how do we now prepare with strategy around how we not only keep it, but advance it for the future. So when you talked about reproductive rights, I didn't share until today publicly on a live. I could have been arrested under these rules because I lost my child in between my two sons. This is serious, and I love the Lord. I'm unapologetic about it. Anybody that knows me knows I don't play with my Jesus. But what we cannot do is allow other people to tell our story. We can't allow other people to shift the narrative of the truth. These alternate realities that we're hearing, it's unreal.
Delusional.
And people are confused about the truth. And I think it was Reverend John Howard Wesley.
Howard John.
I've always wanted to switch.
Shout out to
Pastor. That's your pastor. That's your pastor. Where he talked about true and truth.
Yeah.
So if you believe something to be true, right, you believe that it's okay for, in this state, to tell children that slavery was good for them, then it becomes your reality and you try to convince other people to join in. This election is about setting the record straight. That's it. Right? It's about making sure our young people understand that when we walk into that ballot box, it's for their future. So all of our organizations have been on the ground, every single state, every single community, having these conversations. Shout out to this podcast for the work that you do. Because what I'm finding is that we are suffering unnecessarily in silence because we're not elevating our voices. And when we elevate our voices, then we can talk about the truth of the small margins that win these elections. Many people stay home and get frustrated and say, well, I'm not going to be bothered. It's too much. I'm confused. I'm stressed out. Don't get stressed out. Do something. That's what Michelle Obama said. Do something. And something means voting. So when you look into the eyes of a 5-year-old who doesn't understand politics, but understands that they want their mother to live, God forbid something goes wrong. When you look at a teenage boy, I'm a mother of 2 black men, who I can say to them, do you understand what immunity means on the ballot? Do you understand that if God forbid something happens, there's no recourse? These are the issues we need to talk about, and our young people are getting it. They're understanding it, and because they see other peers coming together to have the conversations, it makes it easier for us to move forward and not turn back the hands of time in 2024, that the blood that was shed on this country's ground has to be screaming from the grave if we allow us to go back to what they fought for us to walk through.
I love what you said. We don't get to keep, we get to give. And I want you to know when I say that next week on the podcast, I'm giving you credit in my heart.
I'm giving you credit in my heart, too.
But I'm stealing it.
I know we have to let you all go because y'all are going to your brunch and we've kept you long, but I do want to just say one thing. In addition to voting, we have to mobilize, and we do really appreciate. We're so grateful for the support that we've gotten from the community for the podcast. My ask of you all is to make sure that you share this segment that you're on with your membership.
We're on right now.
I make sure that you share and tell them to tell a friend, because what this is a convening of a safe space for all of us. We are your hosts, but we are merely the vessels and the facilitators for this space so that everyone feels like they have an opportunity to share their opinions, to ask a question that they may have been too ashamed to share. So continue to do that, and thank y'all so much for what you're doing.
Would y'all help us make this awesome panel?
Powerful. You all were put to do this for this moment. All of us are connected.
This is divine.
All of us are connected for a reason. Right?
This is
and
divine.
so thank you all. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I pray a blessing.
And come get on the bus.
All 3 of you.
I need to go get on the bus.
This is why y'all is just so hard.
Thank you.
I said we in the parade tomorrow.
They got air conditioning on their bus, y'all.
I pray that blessing over you because you're showing the black man's voice, black woman's voice, working together.
Yes.
Everyone's trying
We're
to
done with that,
separate us,
but we're done with that.
Thank you for that.
Love y'all.
When they not shut me down.
Andrew, don't do that. Don't
joking.
misinformation. Misinformation. Love y'all. Thank you so
Love
much.
y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got more gifts.
Oh, he
we
got a
got
preacher
sweat
wear.
towels.
Oh, sweat towel. Listen, viewers.
I
it is
told y'all I'm
8,000
doing good. I
degrees.
got my napkins up under my boobs. I'm all right. So
I keep doing the sneak stand this way.
Next, we have the young
ladies
folks.
know.
If there are any questions or comments from the audience, if not, we're going to move along to our next panel. All right. Y'all are feeling quiet. You must be on one accord.
We gonna start
Next
calling
up,
on
we
people.
have Jasmine Burney-Clark, who is the Harris for President Florida State Director.
Wonderful.
We have
I
Loryn
never been
May.
much, but
No,
the
sit
cameras.
on the camera.
We love y'all. Sorry, we just got to
Thank you.
Wakanda forever. We have Loryn May, who's the university trustee and holds the position that Andrew once held. She's the student body president of Florida A&M.
I was the first trustee.
Oh, okay. First trustee said, get the history right. And then
Perfect.
we have Christopher Mathews, who's the president of FAMU's chapter of Helping Black Communities Unite. Thank you all for being here.
Love it.
Happy to see you guys.
Good to see you, Jasmine. Loryn. I said Jasmine. Sorry, this is Jasmine.
Yes.
Loryn, it's good to see you.
This is
We were on a
Jasmine.
panel together recently. Jasmine,
Loryn.
Loryn.
And the young man in the middle.
Christopher.
Christopher. Well, we can make sure Christopher's mic is working, please.
And put it a little closer.
Put it
Christopher.
closer to your mouth.
There you go.
Christopher.
Test.
All right.
Madam
Yeah, we
President,
hear you now. We
happy
hear you.
homecoming.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy
homecoming.
homecoming to you as well.
How has it been so far? Tell us what we have to look forward to, and especially how voter registration and turnout is going for students.
Yes, definitely. So it has been going great so far. My Vice President, Dakari Williams, has been doing a great job with planning homecoming. We've had some different things this year. A lot of our events have been at the Wilpacker Amphitheater, and I think that's and it has made the student engagement go up a lot. Tonight we have the MPHC step show. Tomorrow is the game. I know everybody is looking forward to that. And as far as voters registration, we have been doing a lot of things to, get the students out there. We just had a stroll to the polls. We had all the Divine Nine organizations out with Campus Vote Project, and it was a great turnout. And I think the students, they're very geared up to vote this year.
I love it.
And I see your pink and green. I
Yes.
you were strolling to the polls.
Yes, definitely, yes.
I love that. One of the things I remember, Loryn, we did a panel together recently in Birmingham, and you talked about being raised in a family of politicians.
Yes, definitely.
How has that mattered for you in this election cycle in particular? How have you used that history within your own family to motivate folks to go out and vote? There's literally an early voting station across the street from where we are, right across.
Set.
Yes, sorry, right across the set from where we are, across from Wilpacker Amphitheater.
Yes, definitely. I think as student body president, it's not only important for me to advocate and put out information about voters' education and registration, but for me to actually be doing the things that we're talking about. Because if the representation of the student body isn't getting out there, voting, and getting my hands dirty, how can I encourage the rest of the student body to do the same?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Jasmine, I know your hands are full here.
Yes,
to say.
Completely
Jasmine
full.
has been and is an organizer, continuing organizer, but right now is leading the Harris Walls campaign here in the state of Florida.
Yes.
How has it been? I know we're at the top of the state, but I know energy's been on full display for the South.
Energy has been electric. Since the transition has occurred here in the state of Florida, we have seen the highest number of voter participation we have ever seen in our state's history.
Wow.
And actually, just recently, this campaign has received more participation by way of volunteers and voter contact than the last 4 presidential elections in history. So
Amazing.
that is a testament to the amount of people who are feeling this campaign, not only through thoughts, prayers, and support, but they're actually digging in and getting engaged. We have county parties who are trying to figure out where to put all of these people in their offices because they're so full of enthusiasm across the state.
So what's your projection? I know you got to be optimistic as a director, but
we're incredibly
nothing does.
optimistic. We are excited about what we're seeing. Here's the thing. We know that Republicans have a 1 million vote margin here in the state of Florida, but we are not seeing that actually show up in early vote numbers.
Wow.
We're not seeing that be represented. So you may have registered them, but you never engaged them. You're not talking to them. We are bringing folks over to our side. We're bringing as many Republicans and independents into the fold as we possibly can, and they're showing up, and they're bringing other folks with them.
Christopher, I love having you on the panel because one thing that we do on this show is try to, as often as possible to center the voices of everybody, especially Black men. If our viewers recall our past few shows, we've had asymmetric number of Black male guests. Now, I know my peer group and my seniors and the people right below me, and they are enthusiastic to vote for Vice President Harris despite this false media narrative perpetuated by folks who don't look like us. I'm curious from your peer group, who I don't have the privilege of talking to as much, how confident are you that young black men are going to show up to these polls enthusiastically on Tuesday?
I'm pretty enthusiastic about it. I think most black men are supporting Harris at this point in time. I think that's never kind of been an issue amongst us. We've always kind of demonstrated our support for her. I do think there may be a slight turnout for Trump or for the other side in the Republican Party, but I don't think that's going to negate the fact that black men have an overwhelming support for Kamala Harris.
Do you hear people saying that in your peer group? Do you hear people talking to you about, okay, and what is their I guess attraction? Like, what attracts them to the other side of this divide?
Honestly, I wouldn't say it's attracting to the other side. I think a lot of them feel like their voices haven't been heard. They feel like a lot of them are looking at the state of the community and just thinking about what's changing over these last 4 years or what's over the last 8 years. And most people are opting not to vote. That's what I kind of hear more so than like voting for Trump. I see most people just saying, I'm just not going to vote at all. And that's honestly where a lot of people are at nowadays in terms of like just seeing the political system and the government.
Yeah.
And
yeah, what do you say to them?
I respond to them. So the way we do it with our organization, HBCU Inc., so we try to get the students engaged in different ways. So one method was just doing postcarding, where they write postcards and express their own ideas of what they want changed to those people. And the postcards go out to Florida, Virginia, and other states around the nation. And this makes the students feel like they're engaged and actually doing something and getting their voice across, instead of just, I'm going to go to this election and hope that they do something for me after it. So
I want to ask a follow-up. And this is a straight up, we try to keep it a buck on this show. So I am really curious, when like you in the dorm with your people, wherever y'all hanging out. What?
He ain't in no dorm.
Yeah, I'm fourth year now.
Okay, you're with your friends wherever you all convene, and whatever's appropriate, and you hear somebody saying, "Yeah, man, I ain't even voting." Like, what's your straight up answer? Not the "I'm on a podium" answer, but like straight up, how are you talking to your peers, saying, "My G, that ain't it"? What do you say?
Well, first off, I do give them that answer. Okay, if you are going to go vote, make sure you educate yourself and give them an incentive of powering them with that knowledge, and not just like going in, studying what these bills and amendments actually mean. Read the language of it.
But they say they're not voting.
You're right, but when you educate them on what is actually on the ballot, like homestead, and what does homestead actually mean, if you're looking to potentially be a homeowner eventually, what does this mean to you? And actually connecting the amendments to them and their actual reality. And if they say, I'm not going to vote, then I say, check out my organization. In our organization, we have a garden here on FAMU's campus. We're mentoring at FAMU DRS. This is weekly, so tomorrow we're going to be at the garden and everything like that. So there's also proactive ways besides just voting to change your community. And I think that's what is more appealing to people at this hour, is just self-determination and self-help and actually like building for themselves. We have a lot of I don't mean to go on a ramble or anything.
Doing good.
But we have a couple businesses within our organization. We have about 10 businesses within our organization. And one of them's right there. She has a crochet clothing company called Noble Treasures. We have another member on the side. He has a holistic healing company. So just
love it.
Yeah, teaching these students not only just voting is a method, but going out and doing something for yourself, creating a new reality, shifting your lifestyle so you can shift the entire paradigm in which we live.
And how policy impacts small business owners.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it. I want to just quickly, and I know we have to let you go. Loryn, I know you're running today. You had to squeeze us in, so we're grateful. I want to just ask you really quickly, Jasmine. You talked about 1 million votes difference, basically like a gulf between progressives or Democratic-leaning voters and Republicans. What do you think it will take for that margin to shift for Tuesday?
So we are in a state where I think you already know Project 2025 existed far before this document did. And we have been living under a governorship for the past 5 or 6 years where the reality is so bleak. We have experienced multiple hurricanes where insurance is an issue, housing is an issue. When this campaign talks about price gouging, we're experiencing it as people are trying to escape to safety. Yeah. So this isn't something that they're reading in a document. We're living it. We've been experiencing it for a really long time. And I think people are finally connecting the dots. They see who's in charge and who can make those decisions. And they see that in our governor, who takes his decisions from a mega party extremist boss, which is, Donald Trump. And folks are making that connection and saying, this does not work for me anymore. This does not serve me. It does not serve my family. Unfortunately, it takes natural disasters like that to impact people's lives in a real way. And it also takes ripping books out of schools, taking Black history off of the curriculum, attacking trans children, fighting immigration issues in other states where people have issues here. We can't talk about where money is going in other countries when we see the example of what our governor is doing by sending resources to other states when people can't escape here. Yeah. And so that's what it takes. And I think folks, again, are seeing the difference with the levels of government and how they are interconnected. And when you go to your ballot this fall, take into consideration that every single person that is on that ballot has to work together from local all the way up to federal to get what we need in this community.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And honestly, I want to give Loryn her flowers as well when we brought the mayor of Tallahassee this semester. And, this is our second year doing it and just continue to having that engagement from the local level. I think that's a great point and just, making sure they understand this is a bottom-up situation where it starts locally and it works its way up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No shade, but I only know one mayor in Tallahassee.
She's only been here.
Bring it home, Andrew Gillum. And one governor. I don't know that other man.
Me either.
Well, we thank you so much. Go and enjoy homecoming. Jasmine, go and win Florida, honey.
Yes,
go and win happy homecoming. Yes, indeed.
Oh, the Lord has smiled on us with some clouds.
I just hope it don't get too cloudy.
Yes.
Bye.
Our viewers don't know because it's autumn all over the country.
And shout out to the small business owner with the clothing line.
100 degrees out here.
We got Desmond Meade, y'all.
I'm most excited about Desmond Meade.
Oh, just forget everybody else.
No, I'm happy about everybody else, but Desmond Meade has done the Lord's work. So this year in Florida, Amendment 4 is about abortion, but you all will recall years ago, 2018, Amendment 4 was about restoring voting rights for formerly incarcerated people who returning citizens. And Desmond Meade led that work for the state of Florida, but also the work that he did here cast a wide net of influence across the country. And even today, millions of people remain disenfranchised because of the time. And not only were you leading that work, but you became an attorney while incarcerated. So, brother, we love you.
Welcome, Desmond.
Thank y'all so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. I drove 3.5 hours for this.
Get out of here!
Just to get to hang out with y'all for a couple minutes.
We love you.
I wanted him to have his own time for a little bit. We're going to bring up some panelists, too. But there's a special, unique spiritual connection between these two because of the time on the ballot together.
2018.
And
one of us won.
I'm going to make a
But in truth, I would love for you to just update our viewers nationally on, since the passage of Amendment 4, Desmond, they know that they heard some wrangling in the legislature and the governor around its interpretation. Where do we sit today as a result of that? And obviously that goes without saying how proud we are of you, the amendment, and the voters of Florida who tried to change the law, make it right.
Well, Andrew, I'm glad you used that word nationally, right? So first of all, since the passage of Amendment 4, we know the Florida legislature had implemented the law that basically made people have to pay outstanding legal financial obligations.
Right.
But the problem was that when people would go to the state and say, well, how much I owe, the state was like, well, I don't know, right? And that has been a consistent problem. And, over the last couple of years, you've even seen people getting arrested, which was problematic because everyone that got arrested, even the women in Texas, they all had one thing in common. You know what it was? They were all issued a voter identification card by the state. And if you can't rely on the state to determine voter eligibility, then who can you rely on? And so we ended up having to file a lawsuit against the entire state of Florida. And I'm talking about the entire state, over 267 defendants we had.
Wow.
Right? And as a result of that lawsuit, the state is now finalizing some policy changes that would allow anyone, if they have any doubts about their voter eligibility, to actually find out within a certain amount of time, or it is presumed that they're eligible to vote. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on this. But why I like what you said about the national, because one of the reasons I was excited to come on the show, because I know you guys have a reach that is nationwide, right? Is that what I'm excited about is related to Amendment 4, because in every battleground state, key states right now in this election, impacted people like me, or returning citizens like me, are 4 to 10 times the margin of victory in the last presidential election. For instance, in Georgia, which was won by a little over 11,000 votes, there are over 800,000 people in Georgia with a previous felony conviction who are eligible to vote.
Wow.
Right? Same thing in North Carolina. In North Carolina, it was won by 70,000 votes. There's 481,000 eligible people right now, and they can register to vote all the way up to tomorrow. Right? And it's, same thing in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Philadelphia. It's the same thing. Hundreds of thousands more people who've been impacted by the criminal justice system can have a significant role in this election. And it's not too late for people in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Arizona, in Nevada, and even in Minnesota and in Virginia, because people can register to vote all the way up to election day. And so we definitely I definitely want to be able to get the word out to let people know that just because you've been impacted, just because you've been arrested or have a felony conviction, that doesn't mean that you can't have a say in the direction that this country go in after November 5th, right? And folks need to know that, because there's over 19 million people across the country who are eligible to vote that think they can't vote or too scared to vote.
Well, this is just the first step, really, in restoring a very punishing criminal justice system, particularly when it comes to black men. I'm not leaving out black women, but people of color are disproportionately harmed by the current criminal justice system. What is your ask once Vice President Harris becomes President-elect Harris? What is your ask of this administration to really remap?
I love your positive and forward thinking. So, first of all, if I were to give an ask, I would get rid of this first, right? And I'll put this on. And basically what that says, F the F word.
Wow.
Right? Because for too long, that F word is just like the N word, right? For too long, we've used that word to marginalize people, right? And it is stuck with them as a scarlet letter of shame for all of their lives. Somebody may have done something 20, 30 years ago. I mean, look, last year my organization was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, right? So now I'm a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. I am Time 100 Most Influential, a MacArthur Genius, for Floridian of the Year, and I still have to go by that F word, which you refer to me?
Right.
And so we have to start there. So that would be one of the things, is that you have to take a more humane approach to criminal justice and people who've been impacted by the criminal justice system.
Yeah. So I want our viewers to know, because they probably can't hear, and the music isn't coming through the mic. But if you're listening to us or watching at home, it's very loud here on the ground. I know you guys hear us at home clearly. So we're trying to speak loud for the audience. But I really appreciate. I really appreciate what you said. That's such an important issue around reframing. A lot of people don't even know how to talk about it themselves. And so we hear our own people saying felon or former felon. So we try to reintroduce language, returning citizen. Formerly incarcerated,
justice impacted people. You know what? A lot of people had normalized the N-word as well. Like, yo, my N, what's up? You know, we even turned it into a term of endearment. But the reality is that the origin of that word is meant to be dehumanizing to someone else, right? And here's the catch: that if we understand the dehumanizing aspect of it, then that means that we should not use that word even for our enemies, to be totally honest with you. Right?
What are we going to call Trump then?
Yeah, what do we call Trump?
Well, so here's the problem. Let me tell you what the problem was. They jumped the gun, because technically at the time when they started using the F word on him, he was not that.
Right.
He was found guilty of a couple of charges. Now, here's the thing. He have a ton of other outstanding charges out there. So he's currently under criminal investigation, right? At the time that the jury found him guilty, they found him guilty of a couple of charges, but there wasn't an adjudication of guilt, right? And there wasn't a finding of guilt yet, you know. And so until that happens, technically he's not. He is just a person that was convicted by a jury, but that has not finalized yet. And so we kind of like jumped the gun on that. That was unfortunate because even when I was looking at the first debate with President Biden, when he used that F word, it had so much venom behind it. I felt like he was talking to me.
Yeah.
I felt it. And it's just like having that white friend that's cool with you all these years. And one day somebody black piss him off and that N-word come out of his mouth. Then you start to think, man, I wonder how many times he said that about me.
There's another F word we can use to describe him. It's called fraud. He's a fraud.
Yeah.
So I know that we have some other guests that are joining us too. Stay put, Desmond. Don't leave, but you got to move your stuff over.
Okay.
I want you'll be joined now by two
go ahead.
other individuals who are one important in this state, but also important in this election cycle. I want to invite Sean and Kim to come on up. And approaching the podium now is Kim Rivers, who owns Trulieve. If you see those signs, Trulieve medical marijuana distributorships here in town and around the state, really around the country. This is its owner and chair of the board. Also, former SGA president of Florida State University. We're contemporaries in that.
Is this poetic or what, right?
It is poetic.
Yes.
If anybody's been impacted by this monologue,
Exactly.
people like me.
How many people are behind bars because of
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and,
welcome.
and next to Kim is political strategist, lobbyist, lawyer, my former finance chairman and my race for governor of the state of Florida, good friend. And now we add to it author Sean Pittman, who is based here in Tallahassee, but a great supporter of the show and awesome strategist. You want him on your side.
I thank you for introducing me to my new best friend in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Meet Tiffany.
You're my new best friend. We'll talk after this show.
I love that.
You champion the issue I care very deeply about.
Awesome.
So welcome home, y'all. Thanks for being here. I hope the audience can hear. Can you guys hear okay? Okay, good. So they're good. You guys are good. The audience at home can hear because we're in the mic. You can't hear?
I
You're
can
here?
hear you.
Okay. Can you hear the guests?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, so everybody can hear. So we're good with this. But it is. I want the viewers to know it is popping, live and popping here on campus. There's so much music.
And
But let's get
Tiffany.
into this because I do want to kick off with the issue of marijuana. One, why is that your issue? And two, how are you connecting accessibility and a lot of the legalizations? We see who's making money off of it and who's not. And the people who are most impacted by the criminal justice system side of marijuana are not making money from it. But VCs, venture capitalists, private equity, these are the people who are profiting. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. And Amendment 3 is really about, first and foremost, we've got to stop the madness. It is time that we stop putting people in jail and targeting and profiling and arresting folks for marijuana here in the state of Florida. We have got in Florida, and I know Andrew can talk about this at length, but we've got a checkerboard of enforcement regimes across the state. And so, you can be in one place and maybe it's a civil citation, but you cross that border into the next county, and not only are you getting arrested, but you're going to jail. And so we've got to even the playing field here and create a bright line so that we stop, again, arresting people, ruining people's lives over a plant. So that's number one, and that's really, I'm very, very passionate about that. We've done expungement clinics across the state of Florida and across the country, and we know and we see firsthand that it's very difficult to recover, and they've done that intentionally, candidly, to make it really hard for people to come back from just a possession charge, right? You can't get a job, you can't get employed. So number one. Number two, we need to create an environment where adults, responsible adults over the age of 21, have the freedom to make a personal choice on a product that's safer than alcohol in the privacy of their own home. So it's really it's a personal freedom amendment as well. And what we know is that there are products right now that are in our communities that are dangerous. They're laced with a lot of different substances. In some cases, in Gadsden County, we had 9 individuals die over a weekend over a bad batch of weed. It's ridiculous. And we have an opportunity now to make sure that people and adults have access to smart, safe, regulated product here in the state of Florida. Now, to answer your question directly, the state of Florida is an interesting landscape right now, right? And I'm not here to tell you any differently. There's 25 companies currently that are licensed. Sitting on the governor's desk is another 22. We fought really, really hard to make sure that in those licenses that there's a class of farmers here called the Pigford licenses that are African American farm owners who were initially, not able to participate in the licensing arena. We have fought really, really hard to make sure that there is licenses now that have been and are being issued for that class. There's 5. So of those current licenses, 5 specifically are allocated for Black businesses that have had agriculture and candidly were disenfranchised a long time ago, and I think that's the right thing to do here, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
Now there's still room for improvement, so we also give the legislature an ability to issue new licenses, and so there can be a whole new licensing regime. So the idea here is that this is a market expander to bring more opportunity to the state. In addition, the tax revenue, this is going to generate $400 million every year that we can generate back into our communities to make sure that we're doing right by those communities that have been the most impacted by this crazy war on drugs that candidly has gone on way too long.
Yeah. The savings that the system will experience by not, Desmond, you know this well, by not prosecuting
in the
things
judicial system.
Right.
You're talking about over $200 million alone saved
to taxpayers.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's far more than that, right? And the reason why I
more
say
than
that
2 million
is that you're talking about
200
million that the state would save just from prosecuting, but the state loses over $40 billion a year in lost income from people that get these type of convictions, and so that the cost goes on and on. But listen, I like that question, and I have to say that traditionally, one of the challenges that we've had nationally is that people who have been getting arrested and getting these convictions, right, they are barred from profiting from, recreational marijuana. However, there is a glimmer of hope, right? Because I remember not too long ago when our current governor had raised his hand on the debate stage and said that he would support voting for someone for the office of President of the United States with a felony conviction. And so what I'm thinking that if you would support someone with a felony conviction being president of the United States, then you shouldn't have any problem supporting someone with a felony conviction who's turned their life around being able to profit off of this if it's passed. Point blank.
Sean,
right? You're able to get jobs and housing, the same thing.
No, you're right. It makes economic sense. It makes community, I think, value sense. And the regulatory regime, however restricted now as it expands, can be inclusive of the communities who have sat at the epicenter of the worst impacts from the war on drugs that this country has waged against them. Sean, you've obviously been in the state through Democratic regimes as well as Republican regimes, which has been, frankly, the majority of your professional career has been under that one. I'm just curious, as we raise voters and turn voters out this upcoming election, what hope do people have around the change that they can experience at the state level here? Because regardless of who we elect for president, which is eminently important, we still live in the state of Florida under what already feels like Donald Trump's America. He lives here, but he's got a sycophant in the current governor who is attempting every day to outdo his right lean. Those are my words, not yours. You got to do business in this state tomorrow. But my question is, what do Florida voters have by way of a motivation of turning out?
Listen, you just talked about one in Amendment 3, right? I mean, and one of the things I talk about in my book, Disaffected, is, what are we pretending not to know as folks that are stakeholders involved in government and politics and all of that. And one of the things we pretend not to know is when there are issues like Amendment 3 and Amendment 4 that we have an opportunity to make like revolutionary change, we got to lead with those things. And we got to give people the opportunity to show up for them, right? And the other thing we got to do is manage the expectations of our electorate, right? Too many times they think, if I do this, it means this tomorrow. It doesn't always mean that. If we would make voting today our modern day bus boycott, where we sacrifice knowing that it may take some time, we would make the kind of change, not just nationally, but locally, where it hits home. You were a mayor, you know the kind of things you can do as a mayor. Statewide, we can't make them think that if this person gets in office tomorrow that it's going to change their lives. What we have to do is make them realize that you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your kids and your grandkids. And we got to create that muscle memory that voting sacred right.
Sacred.
But at the end of the day, it is the modern day bus boycott, and it is the only thing that's going to get us down the road in a position where we really feel that change.
Yeah,
we got to manage that expectation.
Sorry, I'm doing this because I can't hear on my headphones, but we're about to adjust it as soon as this panel's over. Desmond, I want to ask you if you can share any best practices for these lovely folks who have an initiative on the ballot and other folks throughout states all over the country that are thinking about what they can do to change their communities, their states, to ensure that ballot initiatives pass. You are Victor, so what do you recommend?
Well, it's kind of late in the game. No, it could
be a next item. And we got 4 days left. We got 4 days.
There's still a lot of people that haven't voted that need to vote.
So there's two things. One is hindsight 2020, that, you know, what we've seen, especially in the state of Florida, right, is typically the second greatest display of democracy, right, is actually a citizens' initiative. The first is voting. The second is when the citizens, who all power belong to begin with, right, decides to take matters in their own hand in the form of a citizens' initiative to say, this is what we as citizens want. What's troubling in the state of Florida is that they have a history of disregarding what the citizens want, and they feel that, well, we, the politician, we know what's best for you, so we just need you to shut up and just do what we tell you to do. And it has gotten so bad that now you have taxpayers' dollars being used to fight against what the citizens wanted. I was fortunate enough that no one fought against it, maybe because I ran a great campaign, right? Which I do believe I did.
You did.
Right? To actually preempt that kind of activity. But what I didn't or wasn't able to preempt was the backlash that came afterwards.
Yeah.
And so my advice is that, yes, you need to be strategic to win, but you also have to be more strategic to protect the win.
Yeah.
That's going to be extremely important.
Yeah. Can we
that's
follow up?
important, though. Across the election cycle.
I agree. I wanted to ask you all, given your experience on these initiatives, and I know we've got to move to the next panel, is, one, do you fear for access to the ballot following your amendments through citizen-initiated process? Do you anticipate that there's going to be a clapback? And really directly on, because you still got one that needs to be passed, is how it is that you campaign for an initiative that may be more effective than how you might for a candidate? Or are there similarities that could be merged there?
Listen, candidates is entirely different than initiative. Entirely different. You know, I think candidates is more narrowly focused. And unfortunately, because of just who we are as a society, we have gotten to the point to where we are where we are with our candidates. And let's be real, you know, not everybody is excited about the candidates. They're excited about the moment, right? But not necessarily about the candidates. But when you're talking about an initiative, you're talking about something that speaks directly to people's heart, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of their ethnic background or economic status. You're speaking to everyone. That makes it a little bit more powerful than if a candidate were to run.
Yeah, I would just add, right, that, I mean, what we tell folks is, look, I mean, certainly, you know, it's our civic responsibility and our privilege, right, to be able to exercise our voice and to vote. And you vote for candidates, but you just you hope that the candidate's going to do what you want them to do, right? A citizen ballot initiative is our most direct way that we can impact our communities, right? And so we are talking about that citizens in the state of Florida, as an example, have an opportunity to mark a bubble on their ballot sheet that is going to directly stop people from going to jail. Like, that is what we're talking about in a very literal way here. And that's why I think that, right, it is different, because it is our opportunity to directly influence the process and demand that something gets done that the citizens are behind and that we're advocating for.
And you position it also, right, for the next step, right? You give incentive to our lawmakers to then do that right thing about folks who have already been in trouble, have it on their record. Expungement becomes a word that everybody understands after the point that Amendment 3 gets passed, because if I'm a lawmaker, my next thing is, okay, how do we deal with these people who have been in trouble for small amounts of weed, right? We got to get that stuff off their record and help them with their lives.
Can I ask us a quick closing question? For somebody who's visiting Florida and you want to sample Florida's offering, What might you? We'll talk about it after.
Yeah, we can talk about it later, girl. You
That was a setup question.
Thank y'all so much. We got
Thank
you. And Tiff only brought one person. I have a one person asked for it.
That's right. Yes, I'm through, y'all.
Thank you, Sean.
Join us now, Nikki.
Thank you guys.
I bought mine already, but
Okay, you in front of the camera, Sean. Thank you guys so much.
All
I'm
right.
so happy I saw you, Jasmine.
so much,
Thank you guys. Thank you.
We have Fredrick Ingram and Nikki.
Fed Ingram. Come on up, Fed. It's Fed.
Sorry, really quick. We need to
Come on up, Fed. Fed, make your way up here. We live, brother. All right,
Southern Girls Desserts.
Fed makes his way up here. Fredrick Ingram is the president, the Florida president. Hi, you pointed at me.
he's telling you maybe you can't use a certain title. Hey, we're going to introduce you with all your titles.
How's it going?
Yes.
Former president of the Teachers Union in Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
He got elected president 2018 of the statewide Teachers Association. Were you the first
American
African-American?
Federation of Teachers.
No, in Florida, Teachers.
So this was
Florida
both.
Teachers
It's AFT and NEA,
Correct.
right? In Florida.
Well, he almost got fired because I saw this hot hat he had on at first. I didn't see "Make America Normal."
I saw
was
it.
like, you in the wrong rally.
But it's
You in
blue.
the wrong rally.
No.
Got the right shirt.
There you go. There you go. You got to read through it. It's all good.
And of course,
And I feel like we stepped on Nikki's title.
Nikki Free, who is the chairwoman of the Florida
Yes.
Democratic
Yes.
Party here in Florida. And
But
you
really a
have been
national
fighting.
figure at this point.
Well, that too, because
on the
Florida
front
puts
line.
us on the map quite often. But she's also been fighting fiercely in a state that has tried to not only silence Democrats, but have us to disappear in every way in this society. And so, Nikki, we want to give it up to you for the thankless and hard work you all do every day.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me up here. And first, I got to do a shout out. There's no other past FAMU student body president that can get a Gator student body president, two FSU student body presidents, all to be on here on stage with me.
There it is.
Our governor.
Former student body president at the University of Florida, where I graduated high school.
Nikki, I feel like every time your governor here, Governor Ron.
It's not my governor.
Ron DeStupid, is that how you know his name? Anyway, every time he does something, I feel like you're the first person we hear from on the national stage. Like you come out and you're really good at being on the front lines. What is keeping you up at night when it comes to this Tuesday as it relates to the state of Florida?
There's a lot of things actually that keep me up and also get me up in the morning. A lot is voter suppression. Voter suppression that we've seen consistently since he became governor for 6 years. Everything between access to the ballot box, the drop boxes. We all remember last
machete.
Yeah, the machetes. Yeah, the people that are coming out with the big trucks and the intimidation at the polls that are making people scared to be there.
Yeah.
But it's also, you were just talking about it with Desmond, $50 million that the governor has stolen from the people to put out there against the citizens' initiatives. That is miscuing information, that is going after people. So that's what's keeping me up and making sure that you know, what I've said consistently for the last few months is that we have seen that we have been the lab rats of Project 2025 for the last 6 years. And if we don't vote, then we say that's okay. And that keep going for another 2 years. So we got to make sure that we are doing everything possible to turn out our vote in this election.
That's right.
What's your prediction, Fed?
Oh, my prediction: Kamala Harris is going to be our next president.
There it is.
Is Florida going to help? Is Florida going to be blue this
Florida is
cycle?
absolutely going to help. Florida is not dead. We got a lot of people who care about everything that's going on. And listen, shout out to my colleagues, the teachers, the teachers that are doing God's work every day. They're taking care of 2 million children in this state and 50 million children nationwide, in spite of being defunded, in spite of being villainized, in spite of having librarians taken away from us, in spite of having fewer resources in our classrooms. We are still going to teach. We're going to teach honest history. We're going to teach the good culture that we see at this HBCU at FAMU. That's what we need to be teaching, Black excellence, because we've always had it. And so I am eternally optimistic, like every teacher is at the beginning of the school year. We think we can teach every kid how to read and every kid how to do math, because that's what we do. And if you give us the right resources, get out of our way, protect us through public policy, we will continue to do the magic that we need in our public schools.
I love
There
that.
is no policy that doesn't impact the classroom. Every piece of policy.
Every policy. That's right. You know, and if we want to continue to see stuff like FAMU and FAMU's homecoming, you know, we can't make light of this kind of stuff, right? These kids come from K-12 public schools. These are the best and brightest that we have, and we need more of these folks. And we need more public policy that's going to protect what we have in our classrooms and our teachers. And we need to get more of our black men in our classrooms. Because they're not going into the classroom because they don't pay well. They're not going into the classroom because why would you go back to a place that treated you in a wrong way? Why would you go back to that? So we need to change our system so that we can change our people and we can help our families in this next generation. That's why voting is important. It's going to happen with or without you. So you can choose not to vote, but that's a vote for somebody else. And it's a vote against your children. And our children should not be for sale. That's not what we should be doing. In the state of Florida, we've had double trouble. DeSantis and Trump in the same zip code. That's crazy, you know? And so, listen, we're not crazy. We got to understand where this hat, make America normal again. Not because I want normal, because I want the abnormal to be gone. I want stuff that Donald Trump is saying about my people, about people like me, about Haitians, about, you know, villainizing our teachers, villainizing our children. This man doesn't know anything from anything. And the only way we can get rid of that kind of hate and disdain and divisiveness is to vote. It's the only game in town. You can like it or not like it, but you better get at it.
And that's why Florida's in play. Because what DeSantis has done to this state for 6 years, the banning of books. I saw an article today that says we're still the #1 state in the nation for banning books. You know, everything from Black history to slaves, that there was a benefit to slavery, the 6-week abortion ban. That's not who we are as Floridians. And he's taken us into such a dangerous direction. That's why I think you're seeing the backlash here in our state. And no offense to the men on this stage, but the women are going to save the day in this election cycle.
Always do.
Always supported by the men. But I will say this much. For our national audience, there are a lot of folks who have written Florida off by and large, that we constantly, it's not a purple state anymore. People keep saying a red state. A lot of folks neglect that a third of the electorate, maybe second in running now, are independent registrants in the state of Florida. If you had to make the audience more broadly, make the case more broadly, and I'd like to hear from both of you on it, both Floridians, is how do you convince folks that Florida is a state that politically can still vote for a Democrat at a statewide level?
Easy. Look at our election in 2018, Andrew. You lost by 34,000 votes. I bet you probably know that number by heart.
The reminder,
And I won. And I won by 5,673 votes. That was just 6 years ago. And then in 2020, and we saw Desmond's, you know, in 2018, we saw restoration of civil rights passing by over 70%, legalization of medical marijuana by 72%. These initiatives that you're talking about earlier are progressive. And the people of this state consistently are voting way over the 60% threshold. And the fact of the matter is, a third of our state is independent at this point. And so when you take the independents who have been breaking for Democrats since the beginning of 2023 in the numbers of 65 to 70%, that's how we were able to flip the Duval mayor's race last year. Donna Deegan, the first female ever elected as mayor, she won with independents. We flipped a House seat this year. The last time that House seat was blue was when Senator Nelson was the House member, and we flipped it with 70% independents. So right now we've got a demographic that Democrats are voting. Independents are voting and breaking for Democrats. And I am not convinced that more than 10% of the Republican voters are voting for Kamala Harris and Democrats because they're tired of this nonsense and they want normality again.
Well, and speaking of normal, we got to get back on schedule. So we so appreciate you all being here with us today. We're so grateful and for all the work that you're doing to help save democracy. So thank you so much, Nikki Freed and Fredrick Ingram.
Hey, shouts out to the three of y'all. Y'all heroes, man. Y'all keep doing for the black community.
That's right. Just make sure y'all go vote November 5th, last day.
That's right. Y'all is out there because we have all voted. Thank y'all so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
It is, this breeze is so appreciated as we bring up the next guest.
Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up a very, very special guest. She is our de facto producer of today's show. She is Andrew's not just better, but the best half.
She is.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
RJ
ma'am.
Gillum, you're gonna come
She's
up
in
with
the audience
Genesis.
shaking her head.
Where did Katara go?
Huh?
Come on, Jay.
Huh?
Hey, Jay.
RJ.
He's doing his
Up.
thing. Genesis
Come on.
Robinson is also going to join us.
Come on up,
From the
Genesis.
Equal Ground Fund. He's the
Why is
interim
RJ
executive
shaking her head?
She gonna come up here
better
because
come
she
up
thinks she's
here.
still producing. Come on, Jay.
And then where's I saw
We're
Katara.
I'm not sure. He's asking
Okay,
you.
okay. Anyway, I just
Look
want to
at
shout out
RJ in
Katara.
the FAMU gear.
Southern Girl Desserts.
Don't worry about it.
RJ, we're so happy. I know.
I'm like, oh,
RJ, so happy to have you. Our de facto producer.
She was making it happen, y'all.
Yeah,
she really.
We're so happy to have you, and
I'm
brother,
happy
we're
to
happy
be
to have
here.
you as well.
I'm happy to
Genesis.
have y'all in Tallahassee.
Thank you so much. So, real quick, Jay, before we get to you, Genesis, tell us about the Equal Ground Fund and what you're doing.
Yes, so thank y'all for having me. Equal Ground is a black-led voting rights organization. We're working throughout the entire state of Florida with the goal of educating our community, getting them prepared for elections, and getting them more involved in the civic engagement process. Too often, election after election, we don't see the type of engagement in our community. And so we made the commitment to have a year-round investment, right? We're not just coming into communities right before an election and disappearing.
Yeah.
We're staying in, we're mobilizing, we're educating, and providing all of the resources for people to get more involved in the political process.
I love it. Genesis was a young organizer as a student on campuses here. He's given all of his time since leaving college to continue organizing around the state. We appreciate it. We're going to come back to Eagle Ground, but I want to give a quick shout out to my best friend, my wife, my chosen life partner, RJ, whom I couldn't do.
Give it up for Jay, y'all. Give it up for Jay.
And then she also sort of produces on other shows, y'all. You don't get to hear about it, but
no, we hear about it.
she updates me on what's on Instagram.
Why? Why do
Because
I do that?
I don't know.
Because you don't know what's going on.
Which most people figure out
Well,
if they
right.
listen to the show.
Since we're at the highest of Southern Hills.
That's right. You said it right.
I feel like we should hear this love story that began in politics.
We have two different versions, and therefore we don't
That's
have
why
enough time.
Jay is going to tell it. So Jay is reclaiming her time. Jay, I want you to tell this story because we want to get the young people motivated, and sometimes
Please
the
don't
best
do
way
it.
to do that is to know that they could meet in the city chamber. Oh.
Yes, the microphones are now defective.
Genesis, pull your mic off your neck, honey.
That I am so proud of you and what all young people are doing, being active. This young man was a very active student leader. We were both in student government. The year before, he was SGA president. I was SGA vice president. And we didn't get along at all.
Yes.
We fought about everything because Andrew was ready to march to the Capitol. He was ready to protest. And I just had a more calm.
Do we always have to march?
Well, no. My point was.
Can we write a letter?
My point was, what are we asking for, and what is the exit strategy?
I don't know, but we're going to sit in the office until we figure out.
So needless to say, we did not date in college at all. We reconnected years later. It was our student government advisors that put us together. And here we are all these years later. But I will say one thing he says a lot is life partner, and that is true. No matter how we started, where we are now, and all the in-between, this is my friend, my best friend. I can talk about him, y'all can't. But this is home for us. It's where we started. It's where our love started. But, like, this is spiritual, right?
Yeah.
And you don't just have to be a rattler. All of these people supporting you all, this show, when we have been through the highs and the lows, it was our Rattler family that was right there. They didn't care what was going on. They said, you are one of us and we got y'all. So I hope that wherever you are, you have that. You have that home, you have that community, you have that love, that kinship, because there's nothing like it. So I won't tell the full story because we disagree.
I wanted to hear that. I think the whole
tremendously on how the story goes. I'll tell you, listen, this is the quickest part. When I first moved back to Tallahassee after graduating, I ran into Andrew in the mall, and he was a city commissioner, so I was proud of him. And he gave me his number,
I'm going to try to find it so I can take a picture and show y'all. He wrote it down because I still had a paper calendar in my purse. And he wrote down 3 phone numbers on this piece of paper. Now, when I saw the young man in the mall, he looked really nice. He was shopping. But he had 2 phones on his hip. None of those 3 numbers was a cell phone number. So I just assumed he didn't want me to call him for real. He gave me like a work number, a home number. And I said, anybody with 2 cell phones is probably never home. Why you giving me your home number?
You see, Jay, what was you doing? You was trying to fumble the bag.
So Genesis.
No. Genesis,
About
you
what
gotta
happened?
hold on, baby. You gotta hold on. We right here in this love story. So did you ever reach him, Jay?
What number did you call? We connected. It was fine. Oh.
We had to end this.
No,
date.
I never called him because I just assumed. I was like, he didn't.
So when you saw him again, what happened?
The blind date. Our student government advisors. I had come back and I actually worked on campus. I had a graduate student job, and I was in charge of the court, the Royal Court. And I was at a football tailgate, and Miss Dew and Miss Lamb, Miss DuPont is no longer with us, but everybody that was in student government in the 90s and 2000s remembers her. And Miss Lamb, who doesn't work on campus but is still here, said they had somebody they wanted me to meet. And I got very excited, and we made plans, and it was him. And I was like, why y'all couldn't just tell me it was Andrew? So we went to dinner to Bennigan's, which is no longer here.
Oh,
and we talked. The restaurant closed. They had to put us out, and we sat and talked for another 2 or 3 hours in the parking lot Saturday night. And he invited me to go to church with him the next day.
I love it, you guys.
That's so cute. So it worked out the way it was.
So Genesis.
Anyway, no.
Hold on, one more second, Genesis. One more second, Genesis. Before we go to Genesis, sometimes love stories don't always have happy endings, and they should. But sometimes love stories thrust you into another part of your destiny. We're joined today by Charles Johnson, who founded Cure for Moms.
Yes.
And
Moms for Cure.
Moms for Cure. Sorry, we're going to get it right with
For Cure for Moms.
For Cure for Moms. Charles, thank you so much for joining us and for the work you're doing around Black maternal health. We want to hug you, but we didn't throw it off. I done ran off the set today. We just going to be good and disciplined.
They feel sweaty.
And that too. Yeah. We feel like we've been shouting at church. So we really, really thank God for your work. I first learned of what you were doing at Elaine Welteroth's Birth Fund event in LA. So thank you so much. Please tell the audience about For Cure for Moms and the reason for the work.
Sure. So first of all, it's an honor to be here, right? And I have to say to my brother Andrew, to RJ, right, like, y'all have to understand, like, on behalf of all of us, man, we love you, bro. We really love you. And I want to tell my story, but I have to start and center this in the fact that when I touched down here 25 years ago in the fall of 1999, my first time voting ever was in 99, right? And I had a front row seat to 2 things, to a historical steal of an election, but I had a front row seat to Andrew Gillum's leadership.
Yes.
Right? Because he was our student president. He led us to march up the street to the Capitol. He led the sit-in, right? And to watch where you have been, what you have meant to us, brothers. We love you. We love RJ, and there is nothing you can do about it. You understand me? We love you. So this is an honor to be here. So with that being said, I apologize. I had to say that, Andrew. So,
no, thank you.
And so this story starts in how I got this work. I was fortunate enough to be the woman that absolutely changed my life. As we talk about my wife here, we're talking about sunshine personified. We're talking about a sunshine personified, a woman that raced cars, who had her pilot's license, who spoke 5 languages. And I always wanted to be a dad. Always wanted to be a dad. And so we welcomed our first son, Charles V, in 2014. And we began to talk about how cool it would be to have back-to-back boys. And so we found out we would welcome our second son in 2016. We were ecstatic. And so on April 12th of 2016, we walked into Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, where we expected to be the happiest day of our lives, and walked straight into a nightmare. It's important to understand that Kira was not only in good health, she was in exceptional health. And no pre-existing conditions, no signs of distress. And we went in what was supposed to be a routine scheduled C-section. Our son was born perfectly healthy. 10 fingers, 10 toes, super handsome. You're looking just like me, like, this is it, right? This is it. This is the dream. And they take us back to recovery, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. And as I'm sitting there watching Kira rest and watching the baby rest, I see blood in the catheter. Bring it to the attention of the doctors and nurses at Cedars. They come in, they examine her, they take her vitals. They order tests. Keep in mind, this is around, we went in for the delivery at 2, now it's about 4. And they ordered a CT scan that's supposed to be performed stat. And so stat, what does that mean?
Immediately.
Right now, right? Okay, I'm concerned, but my wife is healthy, my baby is healthy, and we're supposed to be in Cedar Sinai. 5 o'clock comes, no CT scan. And I'm asking, hey y'all, where's the scan? Oh, it's coming, sir. 6 o'clock, no scan. Hey, what's going on? Oh, sir, it's coming. We'll see 7 o'clock. And now by 7 o'clock, she's shivering uncontrollably, right? And they say, well, maybe we may have to take her back to surgery. I'm like, what about the scan that you said? And this game of dismissal, denial, and deprioritization of my wife's pain and our concerns continues to escalate. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And around 9 o'clock, the nurse came in. The only thing that they had done at this point is give her IV fluid. So around 9 o'clock, the nurse comes in to change her IV bag, and just out of desperation, I just stopped her. I said, look, my wife isn't doing good. She's pale. They said that they were going to take her for surgery. Nobody's come. They said they were going to take her for a CT scan. That was 5 hours ago. Can you please just help us? At which point, this woman looked me dead in my eyes, Angela, and she said to me, sir, your wife just isn't a priority right now.
Oh, my God.
Your wife just isn't a priority. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And for the instant time, it wasn't until midnight, 12:30 a.m., that they finally made the decision to take my wife back to surgery. After allowing her to bleed and suffer needlessly for more than 10 hours while myself and my family begged and pleaded for them to just see her, validate our concerns. So finally they take her back to surgery, make the walk down this long corridor, and I'm holding her hand, and I'm just doing, once again, the only thing I know to do as a husband is to say, baby, everything's gonna be okay. And the last thing she said to me before those double doors opened up and they closed behind her is, baby, I'm scared. And we're talking about a woman that's fearless, a woman that went skydiving like some of us went for jobs. And when they took her back in that operating room and they opened her up, there was 3 liters of blood in her abdomen from where she had been able to bleed and suffer for all those hours. And I'm always transparent about the fact that although this has become my life, when I walked into that hospital that afternoon, the thought that my wife would not walk out to raise her boys, it never crossed my mind, right? I thought that this was a walk in the park, like we had done everything right. I never missed a prenatal visit. I read all the books, I held her hand through Lamaze, right? And it still wasn't enough in today's America to make sure that she walked out to raise her boys. So although there's nothing that I can do to bring Kira back, I'm dedicated and we're dedicated to doing everything we can. The highest honor we can pay her is to do everything we can to make sure we send other mothers home with their precious babies.
That's such a heartbreaking story, and let me just say, I'm so sorry, and we offer our condolences for your loss and the strength it must take you every day to carry your wife's memory and create this legacy, not only on behalf of her, but the work you're doing will impact thousands, if not millions, of Black women across the country. So I don't even have a question, but I just have gratitude for you and to you. So thank you.
I've heard your story, Charles, obviously. I don't know, today I feel particularly moved as I think about my wife sitting there and I think about our 3 children and think about the miscarriages that happened in between them. And I just had nothing but gratitude for, as a husband and father, your willingness to stand when I imagine you didn't have the strength to get up, and to stand in the gap for so many other families, other husbands, and their wives and partners who deserved to walk out of the hospital just as their wife did. And the health, earlier this week, Charles hosted here on campus a maternal health symposium. And through For Kira for Moms, they're being able to get this word out, this message out across the country, to not only folks in Washington and here at FAMU and across the country, but hopefully to medical professionals who too often don't believe women, don't trust black women, don't validate or hear or believe our pain. They sum it up to they just want drugs, and life perishes in the balance of that. And so, again, I can't imagine the everyday walk, but I thank you for it anyway.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for it. And Genesis, you've sat through two, one slight fabricated story, the other heart-wrenching one. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what youth engagement and engaging youth, particularly in advance of this election, has felt like, has been like, and if there's any learning that we can take from your organizing experience in this election as it relates to black men and what the system ought to be doing to better hear, validate, and advocate on behalf of us, what would that advice be?
Yeah, well, I think, youth are certainly excited to get engaged. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think youth are certainly excited to get engaged this election. Many of them who are having the first opportunity to cast a vote, they've watched for 4 years. They've watched for 8 years, right? Donald Trump and the type of leadership that he has had. They've seen here in the state of Florida that they have books that are being banned, curriculum that is being whitewashed and really stripped of truth and validity, right? They're seeing where they're prevented from calling their peers by pronouns of their choosing, right? And so they have an opportunity to do something about it. And so we're excited about that. We know that this is sort of the first test of what their engagement and participation will look like, not only on the national level, but here in the state of Florida. You talk about black men as an organization that organizes the black community in the state of Florida. We know that the black community has a lot to say. We're a little concerned right now about the black turnout here in the state of Florida. And so that's why our organization is committed from now until Tuesday to continue the work of getting people out to vote, providing the resources necessary for them to make educated, informed decisions, right? Because we know that the voter suppression laws that have been passed here in Florida are having an impact, right? In 2023, they removed 4.2 million Floridians from the vote-by-mail rolls. Why did they do that? Because they knew in 2020, our community led the way in voting by mail and parity, and they wanted to prevent us from being able to participate in that way. And so, we're hopeful. We know that, time is winding up. We encourage everyone who's out there to make a plan to vote. If you have not voted yet, make sure your vote-by-mail ballot is received by 7 p.m. on Election Day. It's not enough to have it dropped in the mail by that time. It must be received by your supervisor. And so make a plan to vote and make sure you participate in this upcoming election.
I love it. And Angela, Tiffany, for your awareness, the greatness about Equal Ground is that it's a group that doesn't work just in an election cycle. It's one of the few groups that you'll find year in, year out, inside a gubernatorial or presidential or outside of those races, organizing and meeting people at their needs. So, Genesis, we thank you for it.
Yes, to that point, to Charles and Jay, I know you all have both been personally impacted by what happens with black mothers. I was curious to know, as so much is on the ballot, including our very bodies.
Yes.
What do you encourage people to do, and how do they stay engaged around issues like this beyond Election Day?
Yeah, so I think, when we think about reproductive justice, when we think about maternal health, particularly black maternal health, and it's important to speak to this as black maternal health. I know the stories like mine, and we look at the statistics, they're heartbreaking, but here's the reality of the situation. We talk about data. The CDC has determined that 84% of the maternal deaths in this country are classified as preventable, right? 84%, that means that those are mothers that should be at the first day of kindergarten, that should be dancing at weddings, that should be screaming at soccer games on Saturday mornings at the top of their lungs, and they're being taken from us. But that 84% is where the opportunity lies, right? Yeah. And so we've set a goal, as you heard me share in Los Angeles, that the United States needs to have a goal of 0 preventable deaths from pregnancy and pregnancy-related complications by the year 2030. And how do we do that? Fundamentally, when we talk about a climate right now, as you well know, that is so politically divisive. This issue around maternal wellness and mothers having the human right, not the women's health right, not the human right to give birth to a healthy child and live to raise that child is uniquely bipartisan, right? Whether you're pro-choice or pro, this is something we can agree on. So regardless of how you affiliate, what your zip code is, who you love, how you identify politically, make sure that your candidate has a clear, concise plan to make our country a better, safer place for mothers and babies, right? But at the same time, while policy is important, we are done asking other people's permission to save our own lives.
That's all right.
So it's important that we as a community get back to what we do well, which is community, making sure that we're informed and empowered, knowing what questions to ask, making sure that we are elevating and sharing information about the providers that are doing it right. Yeah. That are approaching it with cultural sensitivity, that are leading with compassion, supporting organizations like the Birth Fund, and supporting the doers. The reality of the situation is there's a lot of people that like to stand around and admire the problem. And when we talk about policy too, and I could go on all day, but one of the things I'll say when we talk about policy, we're making sure that the dollars, this year we passed a budget appropriation of $100 million specifically to fund community-based Black women-led organizations. Yeah. It's an important distinction, right? So these funds are not just going to the legacy organizations that are making the sisters in the community sing for their supper, right? And tap dance to get the funding. So we're making sure that funding is going to the people that need it, that have boots on the ground, and are having their hands on the bellies. But the great news is that we can fix this. And so making sure that you're holding people accountable, choosing the right provider, and making sure that the people that you are generously giving your vote to have a plan to make sure that reproductive justice is a priority.
I think it's personal. It goes from personal to policy. Advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Black women, Black men, we got to go to the doctor at least once a year, right? We got to get our mammograms. Yes. We got to get our pap smears. We have to take control of our health, take back our power for our bodies, and then we have to understand the power of our vote, because there are people out here politicizing IVF. I wouldn't have my children if it weren't for IVF. There are people politicizing what we do with our bodies and the decisions we have to make. So I just ask everybody, you don't have to be into politics, but politics is personal. It's very important, and that is how people decide the policy that affects all of our lives. So I just ask that people take back that power. Like Charles said, there are a lot of policies at play, so support the people that support the policies that support us.
That's real.
That's one of the things that I think we're seeing here in the state of Florida is people have started to recognize the electoral power associated with the issues that they care about. Andrew, I often talk about that your election was perhaps the most consequential in the history of our state, right? We went on to have a Supreme Court that allowed unconstitutional maps to move forward and be gerrymandered. We have a state board of education that has allowed there to be taught that there's educational and benefit to slavery, right? And so I think when people look around and are able to tie their electoral power to the issues that matter to them, that we can use that as a motivator to get them to vote. It's not just about the presidential race, right? It's about voting up and down the ballot at all levels of government to ensure that we're getting the results that we need for our community.
We're so grateful for y'all. It is hot as hell, Tallahassee. We're at Florida A&M homecoming. Welcome home. We gonna end early. Andrew, you got something to say? We done. We love y'all. Thank you, Andrew. We out.
Right back.
Look at Andrew.
A shout out to my co-host. I should keep us here for 30 more minutes just to torture them.
Nope.
You got one of them from Seattle, the other one from the Northeast. They about to die up here. Me too, though.
Shout out to y'all. You did good in this heat. I was real worried about you, so you did good.
Y'all give it up for this final panel. Thank them for their work, their energy, and a big round of applause to you all.
Thank you. You guys didn't ask no questions. Y'all was probably too hot. Praise the Lord. We'll come down and answer them off the stage.
Well, I want to say to our viewing audience, thank you very much for joining us for the 50th episode of Native Land Pod. Welcome home. 4 days left.
See y'all in Philly on Monday.
We'll be in Philly on Monday. We'll be at Howard University with the next president of the United States on Tuesday. Sorry, did I break news?
Yeah.
We'll be in D.C.
Bye.
We might be by ourselves. But we'll be there.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Welcome home, y'all.
What's
Welcome
up,
home.
sis?